This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
We are live.
We are live.
Welcome in to another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow. This episode is brought to you by Rule 1 Proteins. If you don't know, now you know. Rule 1 Proteins is the best in the business. They got the best protein powder, the best supplements, the best vitamins, you name it. They got it. Go check them out at www.rule1proteins.com. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Podcast is available on all platforms. You guys know the drill. My name is Truck, and I'm joined as always by these two goons, Shane O'Mac and Kulz. Boys, how we doing, Kulz? How's your Saturday going?
It's all good. Already got a draft in the books. About to talk some Dynasty tight ends.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna get out there and soak up some UV rays here in a little bit.
Some vitamin D.
Yeah, gonna hit the gym, go to the pool. And then hopefully maybe another draft tonight.
Don't tickle my fancy.
Yeah, I think Shane O'Mac, as an elder statesman, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How do you feel about Bill Belichick dating 24-year-old, 72-year-old Bill Belichick dating 24-year-old former cheerleader? Gronk was making a few jokes about it at the roast that I think people are now starting to understand a little bit more. How do you feel about that?
He just told Mike Zimmer, hold my beer, it's like, he's like, that's nothing, Zim. Look at this. I mean, that is massive respect. I mean,
Bill Belichick, you dirty dog.
Yeah, he's just, I'm on to 24-year-olds. I'm on to 24. We're on to 24-year-olds now.
Yeah, rumor has it they first connected on a flight that they were talking about her psychology paper that she was writing on the flight. They sat next to each other, so that's the rumor there.
Okay, that's the rumor mill.
I love it. What's going on with you guys? What's up, Shane? What's going on with your weekend?
Not much. I've been meaning to ask you, Truck, and so we were texting last week, and I need to hear your feedback on your first ever viewing experience of a major tennis tournament, French Open.
Oh, wow.
That you watched last
The French
Sunday.
Open. That was exhilarating. The first time I ever really watched a full tennis match. And I still wasn't sure how the scoring went, but I knew it went by like 15 points here and there. But that was awesome. I had some money on the line, so that's what made it a little bit more enjoyment for me. But man, that was really, really entertaining. I was thoroughly impressed. It was going back and forth, and that was awesome. Was that the best tennis? I thought I saw a tweet from you saying
it was good,
saying it was awesome.
If you're going to take in like your very first match, like watching Alcaraz play is a good one to watch.
For sure.
Yeah, that's who I had my money on. So
nice.
Ended up working out pretty well.
Yeah.
Nice. He's super exciting. Young, the way he plays is just so fun to watch. He makes some shots that he attempts shots. Not even pulls them off. He attempts shots that people wouldn't even think about doing, and he pulls it off. There's one shot in that match that comes to mind. I believe Zverev thought he had him beat on I'm not the biggest tennis guy. I've watched a decent amount. I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, but Zverev basically sends a kill shot down the alley, and Alcaraz digs it out. It was like a dig out drop shot that was just placed perfectly. Do you know exactly what shot I'm talking about, Shane? That was incredible. People, that's such a hard shot to make on when it's set up that way. Never mind when he's just putting a kill shot on you. I don't know if that makes sense, Shane, but that's what I saw there. It was incredible.
And it's just fun watching the French Open to see him slide into those shots and everything. I mean, I'd try that. I'd probably stumble and trip and skin up my leg or something, but it's like gliding into it. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're majestic.
Yeah.
All right, enough tennis. We're here talking Dynasty tight end rankings. We're going to go through our top 30. I think that's a good number, and kind of talk about where we're kind of at with each of these players. in a dynasty format. So I'm excited to get into it. Do you guys have any other comments before we jump right in?
Absolutely. You're just gonna swear off tennis like that? No, enough tennis. We got US. You can't be a new tennis fan and not be excited for the US Open. When is that? Sometime this summer, Shane?
August.
Like, come on.
Okay.
Wimbledon before then? Do we have any?
Wimbledon before then, yep.
Yeah, come on. No enough tennis. We got Wimbledon, we got US Open, we got tennis all summer. So if you're not watching tennis, come watch the Road Show. We'll be live streaming. We'll be mocking. You know the drill.
Absolutely. All right. Well, without further ado, let's jump right in. All right. Now, just a forewarning. I guess we didn't really talk about this rankings as much as we did prior to other rankings, but I think this is kind of a more of a simplistic group, and I think we'll have no problem diving right in. So looks like something different from our wide receiver rankings.
You didn't need to say that.
I know I didn't need to say that. It was on the top of my head. Our wide receiver rankings was impressive because we all had Jamar Chase at number 1. These tight end rankings are different. We do not have the same player. We each have someone else. Yes. So let's kind of go through and talk real quick. Kulz, you can start about why we have this guy at our number 1 spot and not the other two. So, Kulz, why don't you start?
That was unintentionally the funniest thing I think you've done on this podcast. Like, that was just you not having a filter. Your brain was like, "Oh shit!" I just realized we didn't start. Like,
we didn't discuss anything about these rankings.
That was really that was fucking awesome. That was awesome. That's the road show. That sums up the road show right there. I absolutely fucking love it. Yes. So, as Truck mentioned, tight end's a little bit more like it's not as hammered out, especially right now because of how many elite tight ends have rose. I don't think there's ever been, again, as the elder statesman Shane can tell us, but I don't think there's ever been a time where there's been 7 elite tight ends, like
it's always very top heavy with 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the tight end position as a whole, as I've talked about many times, like I think it's changing because the game's becoming a lot more pass friendly. But then you've seen, you've seen these guys that like to spread out the field and use these 6'4", 6'3" to 6'7" athletic players that can pass block, yes, but are also very strong in the passing game. It just kind of changes the dynamic of the offense. So now you're seeing guys like, and just it's a sexier position that's getting paid more, right? Mm-hmm. So that's bringing some of those athletes, your Dalton Kincaids, your Trey McBride. We have Pitts, who's been a physical freak but hasn't broken out yet. Laporta, Bowers. And the list goes on. We'll talk about all these guys, but that's why these top 5 can be kind of top 10 can be thrown in any direction, is because you have an influx, you have a dump of these type players, and I don't think you can really go wrong in any of them. So I have Dalton Kincaid solely because as it stands right now today, he looks like he is going to be the wide receiver, the pass catching, the number 1 pass catching option. I'd say when we go through our projection models and start statting people out, I'm going to have Kincaid today as 1.5. So I'll have him as like the average of Josh Allen's 1 and 2 pass catching option. And in that offense with that much fantasy production, that's a ton of value. So that's why I have Kincaid at 1. Is that saying that they go out and get an alpha receiver if Keon Coleman ends up being that guy? Like, that might happen in the next couple years, but as it stands today, I think Kincaid, first of all, Josh Allen's going to still have every piece of production that he's had the last 5 years. He's not going to skip a beat with personnel. So that's why I have Kincaid at 1.
Yeah, I can respect that. I'm right there with you. I think Kincaid is going to be the number 1 target for Josh Allen, and it's hard for me not to put him at number 1 because of that reason. The only thing that I do think that some wide receivers are going to develop in that offense. Keon Coleman, I have a lot of faith in. And I'm not sure if Kincaid will be the number one target for years to come. But I do like where he's at this season, and I love Dalton Kincaid in Dynasty.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is he doesn't need to be. Like, even if he's the number 2 pass catching target, where that goes in the where that stands in the tight end rankings is still above. You know what I mean? Like, I think Laporta was the only tight end to have over 8 receiving touchdowns last year, something like that.
10.
Yeah. So I think, like, if you put Kincaid at 80 catches for 1,000 yards and 8 to 10 touchdowns, that's fine. That's certainly more than Laporta last year, right? Let's see. Laporta last year had 86 receptions, 889 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So, that's tight end 1. So we'll see. It's gonna be fun. I think that offense has a lot of players. Like, I can see Curtis Samuel. I can see Shakir. I can see Keon Coleman, and then Kincaid. And there's so much production for them to fill in. So, like, to me, Kincaid has that year of chemistry. He has a huge development step forward still to come. That surge, like his breakout surge, and being the sure-handed player for Josh Allen in this year where he's trying to figure it out, I think he just benefits from. And again, it's his second season. So, we can sit here and talk about all of these guys. Their ceilings are very high. Their floors are very, very high. That's why they're going to be in our top 7,
I think this was, like, for me, Laporta, McBride, Kincaid, I could make a case for any one of those 3 being number 1.
I completely agree with you.
It was very tough. It was so tough to rank those 3 for me.
100%.
Well, Shane, go ahead and talk about why you put Laporta there, since it was so difficult. What gave you that edge to make him number 1 after being the number 1 tight end last year?
I think just the 2 things. I think the consistency, the tie to the offense and quarterback is, like in Buffalo. I think he's the clear number 2 option, like in Buffalo. I would say probably the tiebreaker for me was just simply, if I'm looking at this year, I mean, they're both so young, but if I'm going to look at this year, I think I've got Laporta a little bit over the edge, because you cannot, for this year, discount. I think Dawson Knox will still take away some targets from Kincaid. I mean, when you look at those splits when Knox was in last year, Kincaid was like the tight end 22. And then at the end of the year, when Knox came back, he was like tight end 34. So he had some bad weeks with Knox. I don't think that's a long-term issue, but if I'm looking at the smallest tiebreaker between these guys, that's what it is for me kind of this year.
Yeah. And for me, with Laporta, it's the continuity in the offense. You know what I mean? Not much is changing I don't think much has changed. The ascension of Jameson Williams will be apparent this year, of course, but Laporta is cemented in this offense. So I get exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the conservative approach. Is Laporta probably doesn't have the highest ceiling out of these guys, but there's the least amount of question marks in that offense. Kincaid, entirely new offense with Allen in terms of like who's going to absorb all that production, and then McBride obviously hasn't played a full season with Kyler Murray. They bring in Marvin Harrison. There's going to be a changing of the guard with Connor and Benson. Like, there's a lot of moving parts in that offense, both offenses, right? But with Laporta, you know exactly what you're going to get there. That offense isn't changing at all. You lose Josh Reynolds. Williams steps into those shoes, as Truck mentioned, and then Laporta's role remains the same, and it's going to be a very, very high producing role. And he's only going to get better athletically. We know what he is. He's not going to get better athletically, but I don't think he needs to. He's just that big body, sure-handed receiver that's going to fucking run you over and get in the end zone. So Yeah, in terms of like less risk, that's Laporta, but his ceiling is probably not as high as Kincaid's right now. It's probably similar to McBride, but there's so much production that's going to go Jahmyr Gibbs' way, given how big of a playmaker he is. I think there's a little bit higher ceiling from McBride just from the standpoint of like he's going to be required to have a bigger role if they're going to have success. Now, will they have success? That's still up for debate. I think Kincaid for sure is going to have success in Buffalo. At least the Bills are going to.
Yeah, the Bills versus Cardinals. Yeah,
they're for sure going to have success because you can put anyone there with Josh Allen, and he's going to the playoffs. So, that's just kind of like how I thought it through. And to add to Shane O'Mac's point, he can make a case for any of them to be tight end one. Well, I'm going to say the same about Kyle Pitts. He's athletically just an absolute freak. He has not been in an offense that's been stable.
Yeah, he's already had a 1,000-yard season.
And he's already had a 1,000-yard season, but he's got Kirk Cousins, who's like probably, if you watched the quarterback series, you can agree is like maybe the most stable quarterback, not even as just a consistent thrower, but as a human being. So he's in terms of a breakout potential for him, like I probably have him over Kincaid even. He's going to be the number 2 pass catcher, number 1.5 pass catcher next to Drake London. I think he's got a massive breakout to come, and then that team's just so exciting. You have Bijan, who's going to be incredible as well. So that's why you see him there at 3 ahead of Laporta. All of that is because they have higher ceilings. And I think that they pretty much come to fruition. If I'm going to live on the air make any adjustments, it's going to be Pitts 2, 3 Laporta, 4 McBride. And that's just because I'm not a huge fan of Kyler Murray's arm. That being said, I think it benefits McBride actually because he has to go inside to the tight end more. But I talked myself into Pitts at 2 just because I love that offense. I think it's going to be an outstanding fantasy offense.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I have Trey McBride at number 1, and simply for the reason that he was very close to Laporta's receptions and yardage mark. So he ended up with over 80 receptions, over 800 yards, and he did that all without playing 60% of snaps until week 8. So the first 7 weeks, he was under 60% of snaps. Kyler Murray wasn't really playing early in the season, but ever since that mark, the guy was just on fire. He was getting, 8 targets, 9 targets, 10 targets. Now, obviously, Marvin Harrison is coming into this offense and will be the number 1 target. So I don't see his numbers being, as consistently over the 9, 10, those target marks. But I do like where he's at in this offense. I like how electric he was in the open field. And, the only thing that's concerning is the 3 touchdowns last year. I'm really hoping that he has some positive regression and kind of, somewhere around the 6 to 7 touchdown mark for him. And I think he'll be in conversation for those elite tight ends for years to come. So I love Trey McBride, and that's why I have him as my number 1 tight end in Dynasty right now.
Yeah, and I think Harrison is that's a plus for him for me. So now it's not McBride towards the end of the season. He was kind of the de facto number 1 target. I would think defense is to focus. I think that's a plus for him. And like you said, I think it's also a plus just looking at the 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's got to go up. He's got to, I think, double it. I think he gets to 6 this year.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
those are our top 4. We got in some way, shape, or form. It's Kincaid, Pitts, Laporta, McBride. These are the top 4 tight ends in Dynasty rankings. Yep. So I think that's established, and that should be the norm. But after this, what do you see here, Mike?
Well, talking that through, I'll say me having Kincaid and Pitts here at 1-2, in a weird way, the way my brain looks at it, and you could make the case for McBride and Laporta. They both had over 80 receptions. The reason why I have these two 1-2, I think in my brain, what I can compare it to is we talk about like cheat codes, with all of these player groups, and quarterback cheat codes being, rushing upside. So you have Hurts, you have, the Lamar, Richardson, these guys who have that like cheat code attached to them. I almost think like from the tight end perspective, we're going to start to see that, and we already have. That's what this like first tier has, is this cheat code to where they're like legitimate receiving options for their teams. They're not just touchdown dependent tight ends. And I think Kincaid and Pitts have the ability to take that to that cheat code to the next level, like Hurts has. He's not only a rushing quarterback, he's a touchdown fucking hog, right? What did he have? He had like 20 touchdowns. He had 13
rushing. Yeah.
13 rushing touchdowns last year. Like, I think that those two have the, like, especially Pitts from an athletic standpoint. But to Shane's point about Knox earlier, I think we're going to start to see it from Kincaid, is those guys are not going to be lined up only at tight end or slot, but like you're going to see Pitts out wide. I guarantee you're going to see Pitts out wide, and I could see Kincaid being worked in that way as well in some packages. So that's like talking cheat codes and then potentially being able to take it to that next level. But yeah, so I have Bowers at 5 because that's the segue there, is like he's perceived to have that same cheat code ability, and that's why I have him there at 5. Ahead of Andrews, who's got a little bit of hair on him, and Hockenson because of injury. Bowers went in at 5 for me because of that.
Yeah, I think he's got that cheat code ability too, where they can put him wherever. They can even put him out of the backfield at times and get some rushes.
Yeah.
And I think talent for me outweighs the quarterback stability issue there.
Yeah, and they're going to get Shedeur.
I saw somebody tweet a comment saying, you're worried about Brock Bowers' quarterback at the Raiders. Who was his quarterback in college? Carson Beck. And like people are saying, like, because he wasn't very elite, even though they ended up winning a lot of games. I found that kind of funny.
Beck, and then before was Stetson Bennett, right?
Yeah, Stetson Bennett. Yeah. So, a lot of people who are Brock Bowers truthers aren't too worried about his current situation on the Raiders and expect him to have a great career. So, I mean, I'm right there with you. It was hard for me to put Mark Andrews over Bowers. I just really, I think people may forget how good Mark Andrews is from the last year. He got injured. It's kind of sour on some people's taste buds, but Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson have such a great connection. And the wide receiver room in Baltimore, like you get rid of Odell Beckham and, Rashad Bateman, who knows? He could have a step up this year. But other than that, you got Zay Flowers, who isn't an electric wide receiver. But Mark Andrews is going to be still one of the main targets for Lamar Jackson. And I think Mark Andrews still has quite a few years of elite production with a team that is, one of the favorites to reach the Super Bowl. So that's kind of why I have Mark Andrews over Brock Bowers. But I could see that switching next year or the year after, depending on what happens in Vegas.
I was kind of surprised when I looked him up. Just 28 years old. For some reason, I was pegging him like 30, 31.
32.
Yeah.
he's one of those players like Joe Mixon. You're like, dude, this guy's like 32 years old. Like, oh, wait, no, he's not. So, yeah, absolutely. I think Mark Andrews is kind of entering his prime right now when it comes to tight ends. That year 28, it's like that, you can look at Kelsey's production. He didn't have that type of production until later on in his years. So this is typically when you see that peak for production from the tight ends position at that age.
I think Shedeur is going to be in Vegas, just like primetime sun and the big lights.
I think so too.
I think so too. Yeah, and I think he's going to be awesome. I think there's like a group of people that think like he just gets a lot of hype because his dad's primetime and he talks so loud. But like Shedeur is a very good quarterback. He's going to be outstanding. He has had and does have all of the resources at his disposal, but also like he's just got that it factor, that winning mentality, and he's gonna work harder than anyone else in the room, and that's what matters.
Definitely.
So yeah, that'll be awesome. But I'm confused by the Carson Beck, not knocking Carson Beck.
I think I misspoke. It was the tweet was about Stetson Bennett.
Okay,
and not
I've been
Carson
in a
Beck.
fucking pretzel over here. Like,
I'm
Carson
sorry,
Beck?
I misspoke. I misspoke. It was directed towards Stetson Bennett and not Carson Beck. So that was my.
That's why you heard me go dead silent and just like super confused, as I was like, wait, Beck? Like Carson Beck has a good shot of being the number 1 overall pick next year.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that he's good. I think he's really good. I think Shedeur will probably be 1, and I think Quinn Ewers, if he takes another step forward, he could probably be 2, but Beck will be in that top 3 to 5. I mean, he'll be in the top. He'll be in that top part of the draft. But anyways, I thought you were talking about Bennett too, so I wanted
that
to
was my
clarify
mistake.
that.
My mistake.
So
we all have T.J. Hockenson at 7. There's really not much to talk about there. Do you guys have any comments about Hockenson?
No, I mentioned with Andrews. I mentioned with Andrews and Hockenson, the hair on them is like coming off injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's about it.
Yeah, and just a reminder, Dr. Jesse Morris, who was on our show earlier, you're gonna have to be patient. Like, he was the one guy that he said, like, he would bet right now is going to be on the pup, and probably not even looking at till week 10 or later, probably the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll be like, you can probably count him on. I'm not a sports medicine doctor, but like just the way that my brain was saying Hawk is like, I'm not touching him from redraft perspective. You can count him out until week 8, and then like, But
yeah,
we're talking Dynasty,
wise,
so
he's young enough.
Yeah.
I mean, people
Talented.
forget, like, he was second in the league in receptions last year.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's going to have a decent enough quarterback to give him enough targets to have a high floor when he's healthy.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that offense develops. If JJ's any good or not. Jordan Addison and Jefferson those two are very, very good wide receiver 1 and 2. So I'd like to see where TJ Hockenson fits in that offense with JJ McCarthy and the future of that. It's something I'll be keeping my eye on.
Yeah, like he's 7 right now in all of our rankings. Last year he was probably top 3. He was definitely top 3.
Yeah.
Like no questions asked. And the only reason why he's not top 3 still is because of these rookies that came in. McBride, who ended up shining. Like what McBride did towards the end of the year to get him in the top 4 guaranteed, that could easily be a reminder this year with Hockenson, and he could be in our top 3 next year.
Yeah, and we talked about Laporta and McBride over the 80 receptions and 800 yards. TJ Hockenson didn't play the last 2 weeks, ended up with 95 receptions, 960 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, I want to look at where I got him. We in our Fantasy Roadshow Dynasty draft, I took him. My team is like probably not going to win it this year, but should be pretty outstanding in the next couple years. And I got some value. He fell to me. It was the perfect team for me to draft him on.
Yeah,
and
it was.
I picked him at the end of the 7th round. So, that's a guy who I don't expect him to really do anything for me this year, but I think when we're doing these rankings heading into next season for Dynasty, there's a good shot he's in the top. There's almost a guarantee he's in the top 5 if he comes back towards the end of the year and, shows that him and McCarthy have a connection. He's got every reason to be in the top 5, top 3, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I got Dulcich at 8.
I love that. I was curious to see how high Greg Dulcich would be in your Dynasty rankings compared to mine, and then also where Shane has him. Shane's got him all the way down to 23. I have him at 10, and you have him at 8. So, Mike, please just go ahead and beat that fucking drum for Greg Dulcich. Yeah,
so Kelsey, like, this is where, like, Dynasty strategy comes in, because Dulcich, obviously, me having him at 8, I'm taking him in every single Dynasty draft. I think Shane O'Mac sniped him in our draft.
Yeah.
Probably just to piss me off. Apparently, looking at his rankings, he did it just to piss me off, which is a total troll move. But like,
oh god,
he's someone that I will be getting in any Dynasty draft because
Shane.
his value is just going to be like probably in that range. I don't know where he's at in keep trade cut. I'll look.
Shane,
right
make
now.
note of this for a potential trade offer later on in the season. That's going to be some ammo.
You don't know me if that's what you think. If you think I operate that way.
No, I'm just saying you are interested in Greg Dulcich. So if
No,
he
I'm
had
not in this league.
Okay.
He might as well not exist in this league to me.
Okay.
I'm not. I would never be played by someone that was trolling me.
I have to look. It may even been. It would have been even worse if it was my second tight end selection.
It probably was.
I think I went like back to back or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm gonna take it as a form of flattery that you trust my. Well, let's start off my Dulcich take by
go
reminding everyone who the tight end whisperer is.
Yes.
Let's start there.
Mr.
Last year,
15 green light tight ends.
Dulcich is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. He's 25 in keep trade cut. It's tight end 25.
Okay.
So basically, any dynasty startup, Dulcich is someone that I'm, and in non-dynasty startups, that's someone that like I should be looking at to go and get in every single league before this season, before his breakout comes this season.
Mm-hmm.
So the knock on him is going to be injury has riddled his career, and now he has a new quarterback. So like on a team that's probably going to be pretty bad. That's like where all the marks on him exist, and those are serious marks. So like I'm having him in my top 8. Clearly, I'm saying he overcomes those. Dynasty is all about talent in my mind. Greg Dulcich is an outstanding talent. He is an outstanding pass catching tight end. I don't know what there's some stat going around Twitter that's like that everyone pumps on Greg Dulcich. It's like had 40 receiving yards in every game as a rookie or something like that. That's only existed with like Laporta and fucking whoever. He has some statistic floating around that's elite. That's not why I'm drafting him. It's because I watch football all day, every day during football season, and I've seen Dulcich catch the football and fucking run for touchdowns. He is one of the best pass catching tight ends that we've seen come out of college. I think people have forgotten that because of his injury last year. Yeah, he's not in the greatest situation right now, but like any of these guys you see in your top 5, Dulcich is as if not more talented catching the football than those guys. He's got that Bowers, like he lit college on fire a few years ago. He's still young. He's going to have an outstanding career. Needs to be in the right situation to be in that top 5. But like from a talent standpoint, he's more talented than Sam Laporta looked in college. Granted, McBride had really, really good tape too. But, looking at Bowers, he's someone that I kind of put him in the Bowers athleticism bucket. He's that athletic. So is Bo Nix the guy? Going into the draft, I would have told you no. Hearing Sean Payton talk about him and saying he's a young Drew Brees, like, do I believe that? I still want to say no, but Sean Payton knows a lot more about football and talent than I do and what he values in a quarterback. And if he's going to take his second half of his career and tie it to Bo Nix, I have nothing. I can do nothing but trust that at least a little bit. So because of that, I'm gonna trust Dulcich. He's my guy, and Bo Nix is Sean Payton's guy, and me and Sean Payton were in this together. I guess. I don't know what to say. There's nothing in this. There's nothing in my Dulcich take that is gonna sell people and be like, "Damn, he's right." Go watch his fucking film, and then when we record this next year and he's in your top 10, come back and suck my dick. That's all I have to say.
All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and watch some Greg Dulcich highlights.
Thank you for
Queued
this
up.
Truck.
Look at this guy in college.
Thank you for this, Truck.
Just bam. And then wait, watch this move. Whoop.
Dunk.
Who?
That is a LSU secondary. I don't know who that was he juked out, but I guarantee you he's playing in the league right now.
Probably.
Yeah, dude. Like, so this is who you're drafting at tight end. Dunk. I'm trying to read what players those are, but anyways, so yeah, you have Dulcich at 10. I know you've you've jumped on the Dulcich bandwagon with me.
Yes.
I'm very happy that you've done so. And we're gonna watch him ball out. We currently have an exposure on Underdog with him being drafted in the 18th round that is going to make people shit themselves when we see. Let's keep it to ourselves until later on. But we have a Dulcich ownership that people are gonna the fucking stat nerds in fantasy football are gonna go absolutely crazy when they see it happen. Let's keep in mind last year we had a 45% ownership in Trey McBride, and we had a 35% ownership in Sam Laporta. And that's a big reason why we had a 20 to 25% advance rate. So yeah, I don't know what to say besides those data nerds can shove that up their ass.
Yeah. So yeah, we love Greg Dulcich. I don't have him as high as you, but you've said everything there is to say about him. And you guys saw the film. The guy's electric, and I do think he's got an opportunity with Bo Nix to do something. We know Sean Payton loves Greg Dulcich, so I'm excited to see what he's capable of this season, being healthy, and I'm excited. Shane, why do you hate Greg Dulcich down at 23? Tell me.
He's
why
actually
you
above
him.
industry consensus.
I'm above. Yeah, I'm just above keep trade cut. It's like we had two games of him last year to go off of. Part of it is like, I don't know, we've seen great tight end seasons from a Sean Payton led offense. Not really. So, is there potential? Yeah. But, I think he's talented. I don't know if the opportunities are going to be there. It's kind of compared to some of the other guys that I've got in front of him.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Like Tucker Kraft.
Like Tucker Kraft, Isaiah Likely, Kate Otten. All right. Well, let's work our way down this rankings. We went through 8 right here. I will talk about the next guy is Evan Engram. I have him at 8, and you guys both have him down at 10. What we saw from Evan Engram last year was absolutely incredible. I'm pretty sure 150 targets. I'm double checking now. 143. Yeah, I know he led the league in targets. He had 114 receptions, 963 yards. Just an absolute monster. We saw Trevor Lawrence get the big contract. He is now tied for the highest paid quarterback on a yearly basis with Joe Burrow. And Evan Engram is clearly his favorite target. They got rid of Calvin Ridley last year, and you draft Brian Thomas, who we absolutely love on this podcast. We think Brian Thomas is going to develop into a great wide receiver and have a nice connection with Trevor Lawrence, but I don't think that's going to take away from what Evan Engram brings to this offense. Evan Engram is their steady Eddie type of guy that he will be targeted heavy. Do I think he gets that 143 targets again this year? Not quite, but I could see him having over 120 targets. So to me, Evan Engram is the type of guy that I want on rosters. in Dynasty. I mean, how old is he? He's age 29, so he's right at that peak, and I think he has more than a few more seasons left in him of elite production with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, who should be taking a step forward this year, and I'm excited to see it. So.
Yeah, I think the big plus for him is why you probably won't see the same target volume replicated. I think you do see a jump in touchdowns just if you're looking. Let's just say just this year. He was so unlucky in the touchdown department.
He went 12 weeks without a touchdown. 12 weeks. And then the next 2 games followed up with 3 touchdowns over the next 2 games. And I mean, yes, that number is going to go up this year.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Yep. Kelsey 9, Engram 10 for me. Kelsey, someone to go get if you're in win now mode.
Absolutely.
He said he's going to eat. He said he's got a massive appetite. I don't really believe that, so I'm kind of steering away from him in redraft and in Dynasty, just because I think, like, I think he's going to be. Like, there's no way he can. I think they got a lot of young pass catchers to carry the load most of the season, and then towards the end of the season, you see him turn it on, and then you see him explode in the playoffs. And I think that's going to be him for the next 3 years at least. And then if he's got more juice in the tank and Mahomes is still winning rings, that you see it. You just see that trend to continue to kind of shift more and more in that direction each of those seasons.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Travis Kelce is still one of the best tight ends in the league, on the best offense in the league, best friends with the best quarterback in the league. So it's hard to say anything bad about him. But, yeah, this is the best wide receiver core the Chiefs have ever had with Mahomes. And I think that eats into a lot of his production. And the only thing that I will say is in the red zone, like, Kelce is Travis fucking Kelce. You know what I mean? Like, Mahomes always looks for him in the red zone. And I think even with a limited target share, I still think he's going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns this year. But, didn't he sign his extension? What was the extension? 2 years?
Yeah, I think he's playing, I think, for 2 more years.
Yeah,
for 2 more on top of this one.
Yeah.
So
he's going to win another ring, put it that way.
For sure. For sure.
I think that, like, yeah, so the touchdowns are going to exist. So that's why he's not above these, like, cheat code type players we're talking about, is because the receptions won't be there at the 80 level, but the touchdowns will be high. And, like, he's the leader of the pack for me in the touchdown-dependent tight end department. So he's Travis Kelce. His best friend's Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be engaged to Taylor Swift. He's going to be in the camera, and he's going to be in the end zone dancing. Like, that's just – if
that's
you
who
don't
he is.
see that, then you haven't been watched close enough. So, yeah, that's kind of where it's at for me. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. I'm not going to have a ton to say about a lot of these guys in this next pocket, because I don't have that strong of a stance any way or another. I think Njoku took a big step forward last year. He kind of is what he is. That'll exist. Ferguson, same thing. We know his role in the offense. Kittle, I probably am a little lower on, because I just think, as I mentioned last year, I think he's going to continue to have more of that, like, heartbeat intangible type role in the Niners offense. But, like, to me, a lot of those guys I just named, Njoku, Ferguson, Engram, we know what they are in their offense. It's a great role, and it's going to exist. The ceiling's not going to get much higher. The floor's not going to get much lower.
Yeah. I think Kittle is interesting because, like, you get such the highs. You had, like, I think 3 straight weeks of 20 or more PPR points each week in each game. Yeah. He's got those highs. But I think last year, if I remember seeing the stat, it was like his lowest point per game season that he's had in his career.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, he has games of the first 4 weeks under 10 points, and then week 5, 24 points. And then the next 2 weeks under 10 points, then 15 points. So it's like, goes back and forth. He did end up with over 1,000 yards last year. He does get those yardage, but he only scored a touchdown in 4 games out of the 17 games. So, yeah, he's a hot and cold. He's boom or bust definition of that, for me.
Yeah, Truck, you have Freiermuth at 12. I have him at 14. Shane Max got him at 16. You're the highest there on Freiermuth. Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, Freiermuth is interesting. He did miss a chunk of the season last year due to injury, but for me, it's I like where this offense is at for him because you get rid of Deontay Johnson, you have George Pickens, and then after that, it's really up in the air for that wide receiver too. Is Roman Wilson going to pan out? Maybe. Are these other players that they have? I couldn't even list them off for you right now as Kulz drops off, but he's readjusting his setup. But for me, it's this offense. The offense is open up for him for a potential very productive role. And Russell Wilson loves his tight ends. Is Russell Wilson going to be the quarterback the whole year? Who knows? But even if Justin Fields came in, Justin Fields loved throwing the ball to Kmet. Yeah. And Freiermuth is that type of tight end that is going to be open in the middle of the field. He's really good at it. And I really like where Freiermuth is going in this offense. I don't know, Shane, do you share that sentiment or where are you at with Freiermuth?
Yeah, I do. I like him. I think when the Dynasty League we were talking about, I think those were my 2 tight ends was Freiermuth and then Dulcich.
Oh, those are who you drafted?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I think for this year, he's the number 2 target. And then I cannot remember. I think I think next year is the last year of his contract with the Steelers. I don't know if he gets brought back or not. But I think he's got enough talent that even if he goes to a different offense, it wouldn't be enough to me to lower him too low in Dynasty.
Yeah, I just think he's like the perfect Steeler tight end. You know what I mean? Like, who was the guy before? Heath Miller. Yeah, Heath Miller. He's just like Heath Miller reincarnated for me. Like, yeah. I'm targeting Muth at the end of drafts. He's kind of that target for me later on. So if you don't go elite tight end.
Yeah, I wish I heard your take because I like Freiermuth as well. I'll just say I agree with your take. I'm sure it was good.
We've had conversations about it, so I think
Heath Miller, he's great. Let's not forget, he's in an Arthur Smith offense, which I think people are going to be a little bit worried about. But it's his quarterback is Russell Wilson, who targets tight ends, and tight ends score touchdowns next to Russell Wilson.
And same with Fields too. We saw what Fields did with Cole Kmet. Don't
he's
do that.
He's a kick returner, probably going to be a slot receiver at best here in the future. So I'm not going to co-sign anything there.
Okay.
He's not a real quarterback. He's a. Anyways, you mentioned that he was the non-elite target of yours. Another one that I have is Musgrave. I think he's a very good pass catching tight end. I think you see Tucker Kraft down there at 22 for Shane O'Mac. He's not. I have him at 26. I actually do like Kraft also, but I think those two complement each other well. Where Musgrave is more of the pass catching, playmaking tight end, and Kraft is going to be the more bang bodies type pass catching tight end. So, does that hurt? Does Kraft and them running 2 tight ends hurt Musgrave? Maybe a little bit, but I think because his role in the offense is let's get him the ball and have him make plays. There's a lot of value there. So I kind of put him and Freiermuth for me are interchangeable in terms of what I think their value is. And what their role in the offense is. I view those two very similar. I've talked a lot about the Packers offense. I think there's still so much value out there in where they're currently getting drafted. So you're going to want to find pieces of that offense and plant your flag and make sure you have a Packer or 2 on your teams this year. Musgraves is just one of those guys. I like Reed, I like Watson, I like Musgrave, and then between I probably lean Wicks over Dobbs, and Musgrave over Kraft, but like you're gonna find value if you get the right pieces of that offense. So.
Yeah, I think for me, between those two, it's just it's like a tale of two swords, the way I describe it, where the Packers probably will have a more productive offense from what we saw last year, but there's more mouths to feed in that Packers offense with less mouths to feed in the Steelers offense, but more of a less productive offense. So I get what you're saying.
Yep. Cole Kmet, Shane O'Mac, got him at 13. Shane O'Mac is the highest on Kmet.
This is like our second show where I was the highest on a Bears receiving option.
Yep.
Well, someone that we skipped over that I want to hear you talk about is Jake Ferguson. Talk about Ferguson and then Kmet. These are, your team, Truck's team, I guess my team now too. I did say that I'd be all the way back in. It's weird to say that. I don't know that I can still say that. All right. And my team as well. It feels like I'm jerking off with my left hand right now. But let's talk about Jake Ferguson and then Cole Kmet, Shane.
Yeah, and I feel like you guys kind of helped bring me around on Ferguson. I thought always, you were higher on Ferguson than I was at times. Last year and early in the season. But when I was like looking more at him, I'm like, this guy, he had the same amount of touchdowns as Hockenson and Kelsey. He was number one in like red zone targets amongst all tight ends and red zone catches. And then the main thing is like, he's young. He's tied to an offense that's going to be throwing the ball a lot. He is going to be, at least for this year, I think, for sure the number 2 targeted receiving option on that offense. And if what you guys keep predicting is going to happen, that there's no way that Dak is not back next year. He's tied to Dak, who targets the heck out of tight ends.
Yeah. Also, like, they don't have a running game in the red zone this year. Well, they can try to, but like he's going to be targeted more in the red zone, I think. Unless they get Javonte Williams. I'm really hoping the Cowboys get Javonte Williams.
Shane, have you heard that yet or no?
No. Why would Denver jettison him? Because of all of Jalil's?
There's a lot of conversation about Javonte getting cut from the team.
Wait, can we? I wish we had the ability to run back Shane O'Mac's quote right there on Javonte. That broke his brain a little bit.
Yeah.
He was trying... Jalil. What are you guys saying?
That's crazy to me that they would
cut him.
That's what I'm saying. I think we all share the same sentiment with Javonte Williams and the Denver Broncos. But if anything that's Mike saying has any validity to it, if Javonte did go to Dallas, he would eat into that red zone.
So like we're sitting here saying like there's no way, right? Coach speak was like, we got a bunch of guys in the room, we'll see what happens. So like maybe the social media, the media in general has just like ran with that narrative a little bit more than what's actually happening. But there was a report that was like Jalil looks good and Javonte could be on and because of that Javonte could be on the outs, which are they looking to completely move on from Sutton is a name that could potentially get traded and Javonte, like I think they'd be stupid to. That hurts their ability to win now with their talent. But like if they just want fresh, young, if they have no intentions of signing those guys, then it's like, let's just get them out of the room now and let's
get some draft capital,
establish some chemistry with some guys that will be in that room when we're winning in 2-3 years. So that could be the case. Now, does that hurt Nick's ability to gain confidence because his guys aren't as talented around him? Maybe, like, so that's just kind of what Sean Payton's going to be working out in the offseason. And now could they cut Javonte Williams? Could estimate ball out Jaleel be like the lead back for now with the intentions of Estime winning that role? Maybe. And then Javante's a Cowboy and the Cowboys win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Just kidding, Shane.
So.
I was hoping for a better reaction.
If anybody's going to get cut, I would think, Samaje Perine's going to get knocked
Oh,
out.
he's definitely getting cut. I think that's
Yeah.
a no-brainer. It's the Blake Watson would be the one that if Estime and Watson are good enough, so your three running back room is Jaleel, Estime, and then and Blake Watson, then you can look at letting those two guys go.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but I don't know how we were going to talk about Ferguson and Kmet and spend the entire time talking about the running back room of Denver.
That's the road show, baby. That is the road show, baby.
Talk about Cole Kmet, Shane O'Mac. Talk about a tight end who's currently about to have Caleb Williams throwing him the football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as concerned. Like last year, much like Ferguson, he was a red zone target. He was, I think, 4th or 5th in red zone targets. He had I don't know, almost 800 yards, I think, last year. And then I think Keenan Allen only plays maybe 1 year there. So
719 yards. Okay,
yeah. So long term, I think Kmet can be like a number 2 receiving option, and or number 3 behind Rome. But I just am attaching any offensive pieces to Caleb Williams that I can, because I think he's going to be that good. And so I think if Kmet can be what he was the last 2 years with Justin Fields, then
tight end 7 last year.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, it's about having a piece tied to Caleb Williams.
I love that. That makes me want to bump him. I'm not going to, because of you got Keenan out. Like, as long as Keenan's still there and it's not DJ, Rome, Kmet being the third option, then I can't really bump him ahead of. I mean, maybe I could over Musgrave and Freiermuth, and maybe I end up getting to that point. But you also have Gerald Everett, who's Waldron's guy, knows the offense, and some of that could just be teaching Kmet the offense, this new offense. But a lot of that, it could also be he's a legitimate pass catching tight end, like he is. He's just that's what he does. So I think. Is that like a couple 100 yards and 4 touchdowns? Maybe, but if that is the case, that's relatively significant from what you're going to get from Kmet. So, he gets a bump in an offense that's going to be outstanding. What did I say? 4,700 passing yards and 45 touchdowns. There's a lot of that to go around. So, will the improving of pass catching in the offense offset having Gerald Everett? Probably not. So I'm probably talking myself back into Kmet again. But yeah, it's just because of you have Keenan in there, you have that 3-headed monster, and then you have Gerald Everett. Swift's going to get his as well.
Don't forget the recent signing of Mercedes Lewis.
He's a vibes guy, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that they were just like, yeah, we're going to sign Mercedes Lewis, and he's just locker room guy.
Yep. Bring up the vibes. I like it. All right. Yeah. I mean, I love what you're saying about Cole Kmet. I want to move him up too. I probably will towards the end of this off season. But as of right now, I feel comfortable where he's at. After that, Shane, you're highest on Dalton Schultz too, which I'm shocked about that. Go ahead.
I am going to move him ahead, actually.
All right.
And I'm doing that because this is Dynasty. Redraft, I might be a little bit more conservative, but Kmet is a guy who is going to be tied to Caleb Williams for his fucking career. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's already signed a deal. They know how big of a part of that team and offense he is. I've always been a Cole Kmet guy. I think he's an awesome tight end. Just like Freiermuth and Musgrave in terms of being just solid tight ends. That's what Kmet is. He's the full pass block. He's the full pass block or the run blocking, pass catching tight end, big body type guy. So I have him in that like Freiermuth Musgrave talent pool. I'm going to put him ahead of them because he has Caleb Williams, who I think is going to be the best, quarterback in the NFL.
I love it. All right, let's just pick someone from this bottom 10, bottom 15 that you guys want to mention. I mean, there's not a lot of conversation around these guys. I do like Hunter Henry with the Drake May. I think Drake May starts the season, and I think Hunter Henry could be a steady Eddie target for him in the future. But kind of going through this pocket right here. What do you guys see?
Well, let's not. I don't want to pick everyone's player for them, but there's still some players here I want to talk about.
Okay.
But I want Shane. I want to hear you talk about Ben Sinnott. This is your boy. So go ahead.
Can we talk about the disrespect of Truck having Taysom Hill?
Yeah.
Over Ben Sinnott, and I am the Taysom Hill guy.
Okay, hands up. That was mainly a troll. I wanted to hear you guys mention that.
I love it.
I thought that would be fun conversation. Taysom Hill. You're talking about Taysom Hill last year. Tight end 15, scored 6 touchdowns, over 80 rushes. The guy's just an X factor. But it's just fun conversation with Taysom Hill. It's kind of an inside joke with the pod. But it's I would draft Ben Sinnott over Taysom Hill in a startup dynasty. I just want to make that clear. But continue what you're talking about with Ben Sinnott.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, obviously I watched a ton of him. He can line up all over the place. Yeah, he had one of the best historically great combine scores as far as athleticism. I mean, his RAS numbers were off the chart. There's 2 things I like going for him. There's like 80, even if you're just looking at the neck immediately, there's 80 targets and like 60 something catches vacated from the shell of Logan Thomas from last year. They spent good draft capital, 2nd round pick on him. And I'm going to just take my same strategy. I like pairing a tight end with who I think is going to be an elite dynasty quarterback for many years to come. And Daniel's there. So I think I'll always take that pairing. I think Sinnott's going to be paired with him. I don't think he's going to be replaced, in a year or 2. So anytime I compare a young athletic tight end and that potential with a very, very high ceiling and floor for me and Daniels, I'm going to jump on that.
I like that. I'm redraft. I think I'm out on Sinnott, but dynasty, he's interesting with the connection with Jaden Daniels. I think they're going to have a something special there in Washington in the next couple of years. So I can get behind that that endorsement.
Yeah, I do like it. To be honest, I think after talking to Ref the District, which that episode should be coming out next week as well, right? I think.
Yeah. Commanders, yep.
Yeah, our Commanders episode, after talking with those guys, I think I'm going to like Ertz this year. Right now he's not getting drafted, and he's still got a little bit of juice left. He's the kind of guy that, he's made his career over being a guy that just balls out. He's a winner. He's a football player. And I think you're going to see him be a big part of the Jaden Daniels getting comfortable in the NFL formula. The veteran guy that just kind of helps you settle in and plays a big role in doing that. And the perfect guy from Sinnott to learn from. So redraft, I think Sinnott, I'm probably off on him this year completely. Yeah. But in terms of having the best professional to learn from, look at what it did to Goddard early in his career. You're going to be learning from the best and arguably playing with one of the most talented up and coming quarterbacks. So Yeah, I should move him up 100%. I just don't know how I can. What's crazy to me is like I have Schultz ranked at 18. Schultz is a guy that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I can't move him up here. That's how good this tight end.
Yeah.
That's how good these tight ends have become. That is like, there was a time where we wouldn't be talking about more than 10 tight ends, like 15 even. And I'm talking about like, I'm not as old as Shane O'Mac. Maybe I am getting kind of old. I've been playing this game for a while too. But you know what I mean? Like, there used to be a time I was your classic guy, not going to spend a single draft pick on a tight end. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, Shane, I literally didn't draft tight ends ever. Never draft quarterback or tight end. Quarterback I kind of did, but for the most part, like wouldn't draft a tight end, and I always found the tight ends. And now, like it's completely changed the landscape. It's crazy that I cannot move Dalton Schultz up from 18. He's what, 27, 28, kind of the same age you mentioned. Yeah. Mark Andrews, he's, CJ Stroud is the same exact thing we're talking about Kmet and pumping his tires. Yep. Schultz is in that same position.
Tight end 10 last year.
Just signed a new 3-year deal, so he's going to be there 3 more years at least.
Yeah. I mean, can I put him ahead of Goddard? Maybe, but it's crazy to me that this is how deep we're looking at tight ends dynasty. I mean, we just talked for an hour, and I feel like we could have kept going, or we can keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Otten is another guy. He's in an offense where he has a very good established role. He could be a legitimate top 10 tight end this year. So Sinnott's going to be one of those guys that rises in our rankings likely next year. I just need to see it happen before I put him in front of some of these really established guys in this, 12 to 18 range.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So then from there, I mean, I don't have much to say. Eric All, he's got an opportunity to slide into a high-powered offense with Burrow. There's going to be a little bit of moving around to see what that future looks like. Is Higgins going to be there? Likely not. Is Burton going to step in as wide receiver 2? Probably. That tight end room is still not figured out. So, like, if he ends up being that guy, there's a ton of opportunity there for him to rise. Jelani Woods is a guy that I think has all the talent in the world. Now he's not in the greatest situation with Anthony Richardson there.
He's a big son bitch too.
Yeah, he's like the next. He's the Juwan Johnson 2.0, right? Like he's a guy that you want in best ball because he's going to score 6 to 8 touchdowns. I think. The receptions won't be there, but the touchdowns will. And then lastly, like Brevin Jordan, that's one guy who I have at 24. I don't think I see him on your guys' list.
No.
He's like kind of in the same like likely bucket as me, where there's an established tight end ahead of him in an awesome offense, but he has a ton of pass catching talent. You saw it last year on a few big time touchdown plays. He is going to only get better. He's one of those guys that athletically, he's still entering his prime, so he's only going to get better. His playmaking ability is only going to get better. It's just like he's behind Dalton Schultz. He's in an incredible offense.
He's 23 years old.
Yeah, he's 23.
It's crazy.
He's awesome. Like, so I could see a situation where he ends up being, Schultz isn't the most athletic person. He's in there because he's a, bruiser, tight end, leader type guy. He's going to start, he's going to start slipping in athleticism, maybe not in these next couple of years, but as he ages towards 30, and that's when Brevin's going to be 26 with Stroud in his prime, with Nico and Tank in their prime. And he's someone I could see that breaks out in 3 years down the road. Now, do you want to put a roster spot in a dynasty league on him? maybe because you're not going to start him really. Like, you don't know when those breakout type games are going to happen or when they're going to come. But, like, 3 years down the road, he could be one of the top 15 tight ends in the league easily, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for our Dynasty tight end rankings. Do you guys have any closing statements? I know, Kulz, you just went on about Brevin Jordan, but Shane, do you have any closing statements about these rankings?
I think a very dart throw I would like in your very last round of your Dynasty drafts now is Theo Johnson. He's kind of an athletic freak. You've got Waller gone, actually, you know, now. But if you're looking at traits, I mean, he's like 6'6", 260. Like he's the guy that had the wingspan of like over 80. You know, it's just he's got the traits. So, they've got Bellinger there still for this year, but maybe it's somebody, especially with the
definition of a dart throw.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's be careful when we call him an athletic freak. I think there's a difference of calling Brevin Jordan like an athletic freak and Theo Johnson in that, like, he's got the prototype,
physical,
the body,
his profile,
physical,
his profile,
as a pass catching tight end.
Yeah,
but he's not an athletic freak. If you look at his film, Truck tried to sell me on Theo, like, let's take a few dart throws on him, and I didn't even say anything. I just sent him Theo Johnson's highlight tape, and then I sent him Dulcich. That's probably why Truck was able to get Dulcich's highlight tapes right away. I was like, I mean, Theo Johnson, like, he can catch passes, but he can't do anything after that. So like he could definitely be a red zone threat for them, but he's never going to be a playmaker. He's just that's not in his bag. Someone has to rise and be the tight end for the Giants, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of production in a big role to fill. Bellinger has like more of a body for it. I don't know that he's this crazy playmaker either, but yeah, you're right. Theo Johnson has the reach and the prototype body, but take a look at his film. He is not a playmaker. So
nothing stood out when we watched.
He catches the ball and he goes down. He's never going to break a tackle. He's never going to juke.
But hey,
make anyone miss.
He caught the ball.
Yeah, he'll catch balls.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
He'll catch balls in space. He'll catch balls in space, and he'll catch touchdowns if he becomes a red zone target. I just don't know you grow pure athleticism overnight. It's just you either got it or you don't. That's my thought. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that about does it. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Podcast is available on all platforms that you get your podcasts. We teased a little Washington Commanders episode coming up soon. Be on the lookout for that. And after this, we're kind of done. We're wrapping up our Dynasty content. We're going to be diving into redraft, mock drafts. We're doing a ton more best ball drafts, so keep a lookout. Stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter. All of our tags are here in the video. And other than that,
I think I should have been sitting like this the whole time. Not like
this. This is you.
Or I should have been doing this.
Yeah, that would have been better. But hey, we live and we learn, right?
All right.
Well, yeah.
This is actually funny though. Like,
yeah. All right, everybody, buckle up. Have a good time.